People don't fall in love with you because of your looks, your money, or the car you drive. Those things might get attention, but they don't win hearts. The truth is, people fall in love with you for only TWO reasons. And once you understand this, you'll stop chasing the wrong things and start building real connections that last. Let's break it down. When we talk about love, most people think it starts with appearance, possessions, or status. But if you really pay attention, you'll notice something deeper. People fall in love with you because of how you make them feel. Think about it. We remember moments, not just faces. We remember the way someone's words calmed us when life was falling apart, the way their laughter made a room feel lighter, or the way their presence made us feel safe when everything else felt uncertain. That's the truth. Most people miss. Love isn't about what you show off, it's about what you stir up in someone's heart. Now let me give you a picture. Imagine two people walk into your life. One is impressive. Maybe they look great, they talk smooth, they've got it all together on the outside, but when you leave their presence, you feel smaller, less valued, maybe even invisible. Then there's another person. They're not trying to impress you. They just see you. They listen, they ask, they laugh with you, and they make you feel lighter when you walk away. Which one would you really fall for? Exactly. It's never about the surface. It's about the emotions they leave behind. Love is not built in grand gestures. It's built in the little moments. It's in the, "I'm proud of you," when you needed to hear it most. It's in the, "I believe in you," when you doubted yourself. It's in the way someone listens without rushing you, or how they remember the small details you thought nobody noticed. That's what creates connection. That's what creates love. People don't fall in love with the fancy version of you. They fall in love with the version of themselves they feel in your presence. Here's the hard truth. Some of us spend so much time trying to be impressive that we forget to be impactful. We chase validation by showing what we have, instead of asking ourselves, how do I make people feel when they're around me? And the funny thing is, people won't always remember the words you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. If being with you feels like peace, they'll want more of you. If being with you feels like chaos, they'll run. And here's where it really matters. How you make people feel doesn't come from trying too hard or being perfect. It comes from being present. It comes from genuinely listening when someone is speaking instead of waiting for your turn to respond. It comes from putting your phone down, looking them in the eye, and giving them your attention in a world where attention has become rare. It comes from small kindnesses, smiling, encouraging, showing appreciation. Those things seem small, but they're everything. When someone walks away from you feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling valued, they connect that feeling to you. And that's the seed of love. That's why people fall in love with you. Not because you had the right line, not because you wore the right clothes, not because you looked like you had it all together, but because you gave them something even the richest person can't buy. You gave them the gift of a feeling they didn't want to lose. So if you're wondering why someone falls in love, don't ask, what do I need to show them? Ask, what do they feel when they're with me? Because love is always tied to emotion. The people who stay in your life are the ones who associate you with peace, with joy, with safety. That's the real reason people fall in love with you. Because of how you make them feel. The second reason people fall in love with you is because of who they become when they're around you. Let me explain. Every single one of us has different sides. There's the version of us that shows up when we're anxious. The version of us that shows up when we're excited. The version of us that comes out when we feel safe. And then there's the version of us that shows up when we feel judged or criticized. People fall in love not just with who you are, but with who they are when they're with you. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who makes you second, guess every word you say? You feel small, you feel like you're walking on eggshells, like nothing you do is enough. Do you want to be around that person for long? Of course not. But then there's the other kind of person, the one who makes you laugh so hard you forget your problems for a minute. The one who makes you feel confident, bold, comfortable in your own skin. That's the version of yourself you like. That's the version you want to protect. And you end up connecting those feelings back to the person who unlocked them. That's love. See, when someone feels alive around you, when they feel like their best self in your presence, that's when they start to lean in. It's not about you being perfect, it's about them liking the way they are when you're around. If you make them feel smarter, they'll want to talk to you more. If you make them feel stronger, they'll want to stand beside you. If you make them feel more peaceful, they'll crave your presence. Love is rooted in identity, in the mirror they see when they're with you. And here's the beauty of it, you don't need to have all the answers or fix anyone's problems. Sometimes, all it takes is giving someone space to be themselves without fear, space to fail without shame, space to dream without ridicule. When you create that environment, people begin to discover sides of themselves they didn't even know were there. And the more they like that version of themselves, the more they associate that discovery with you. That's why love built on status, looks, or surface level attraction never lasts. Because once those things fade, there's no lasting identity tied to them. But love built on the best version of someone's self, that sticks. They'll fight for that. They'll protect that. Because deep down, everyone is searching for the person who brings out their best, not their worst. And here's the part that requires honesty. You need to ask yourself, what version of people comes out when they're with me? Do they feel more encouraged or more criticized? Do they feel lighter or heavier? Do they feel seen or overlooked? The answers to those questions tell you a lot about the kind of impact you're really making. Because in the end, love is never just about what people see in you. It's about what they see in themselves when you're there. And when you can bring out the strongest, happiest, truest version of someone else, that's when they fall in love with you. Here's the thing most people don't want to admit. Looks, money, status, they can get you noticed, but they can't keep you loved. Those things are temporary. Your looks will change. Your bank account will go up and down. Your status can be here today and gone tomorrow. And if the only reason someone is drawn to you is because of those things, their love will fade the moment those things do. That's why so many relationships start off strong but don't last. Because they were built on sand instead of stone. Think about it. If someone only loves you because of your looks, what happens when time leaves its mark? If someone only loves you for your money, what happens when you hit a rough season? If someone only loves you because you're successful, what happens when life knocks you down? The truth is, people who are tied to you for shallow reasons will walk away when those reasons aren't there anymore. But people who are tied to you because of how you make them feel, because of the version of themselves they love when they're around you, those are the ones who stay. See, the problem is, the world keeps shouting at us to focus on the surface. Buy this, wear that, drive this, post that. It convinces us that the more impressive we look, the more lovable we'll be. And yeah, maybe it'll get you some attention. But attention is not affection. Attention is not loyalty. Attention is not love. And if you confuse the two, you'll spend your whole life chasing likes instead of building love. Real love doesn't come from impressing people. It comes from impacting them. It comes from being steady when the storm hits. It comes from showing up when things aren't glamorous. It comes from being the same person in private as you are in public. That's why consistency matters more than appearance. Because what lasts is not the image you project, but the trust you build. You don't have to look far to see this. Think about couples who have been together for decades. Their faces don't look the same as when they met. Their lives might not be as flashy as they once were. But ask them why they're still together, and you'll hear things like, "He's my best friend. She makes me laugh. I feel safe with them." Those answers have nothing to do with the temporary. They have everything to do with feelings and identity. That's what endures. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look your best, take care of yourself, or work hard for success. But don't mistake those things for the foundation of love. They're accessories, not anchors. They might attract someone to you, but they'll never be enough to make them stay, because real connection goes deeper than that. So instead of spending all your energy polishing the outside, spend just as much energy strengthening the inside. Because the truth is, you don't want someone who only loves your highlight reel. You want someone who loves you when the lights are off, when the makeup's gone, when the title isn't there, when the money's tight. That's where you find the difference between someone who's here for a season and someone who's here for life. At the end of the day, the surface can only hold someone's attention, but depth is what keeps their heart. If there's one thing that builds real love, it's not the big speeches or the grand gestures. It's consistency. Anyone can say the right words once in a while. Anyone can show up when it's convenient or act kind when the spotlight is on. But real connection, real trust, real love, that's built in the everyday actions that line up again and again. See, consistency is what tells someone, you can count on me. And that's what people are really looking for. They're not just watching what you do once, they're watching what you repeat. Do your actions line up with your words? Do you follow through on what you say you'll do? Do you show up even when it's not easy, even when there's nothing in it for you? That's where trust is built. And without trust, love can't survive. Think about it this way. If someone tells you they care about you, but they only call when they need something, how much does that care really mean? If they say they'll always be there for you, but disappear the moment life gets tough, how much weight does that promise carry? Words might sound good in the moment, but without consistent actions behind them, they eventually lose all their power. Now compare that to the person who shows up quietly, steadily, without needing to announce it. The one who checks on you not because they need you, but because they want to make sure you're okay. The one who remembers the little details and proves, over and over again, that they mean what they say. You don't have to question where you stand with someone like that. And that's where love feels safe enough to grow. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes or let someone down. But it does mean that your overall pattern is reliable, steady, trustworthy. People can forgive mistakes when they know your character is consistent. But if your words and actions are all over the place, people will start protecting themselves instead of opening up to you. And love cannot grow where people feel like they have to guard themselves. Here's something important. Consistency doesn't only apply to how you treat others, it also applies to how you show up as yourself. If you're hot and cold, if one day you're uplifting and the next day you're tearing people down, if your energy is unpredictable, people won't know who they're going to get when they're with you. And when that happens, they'll start pulling back because love can't breathe in uncertainty. It needs steady air. The truth is, consistency is the quiet superpower that makes someone fall in love. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. In a world where people change their minds quickly, where promises get broken, where attention jumps from one thing to another, being steady stands out. And when people realize they can trust your words, trust your actions, trust your presence, they'll naturally want to build deeper with you. So ask yourself, do my actions line up with my words? Do people feel secure with me? Or do they feel like they're always guessing what comes next? Because love, at its core, isn't about intensity once in a while. It's about consistency over time. At the end of the day, consistency is what turns feelings into trust and trust into love. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about love is thinking they need to be perfect to be loved. But the truth is, people don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with authenticity. They fall in love with the real, unpolished, honest version of you. Perfection might impress people for a moment, but it's authenticity that builds something lasting. When you try to be perfect, you put yourself on a stage. You're always performing, always editing, always worried about whether people will still like you if they see the cracks. But here's the problem: the more perfect you try to look, the harder it is for people to connect with you. Why? Because nobody can relate to perfection. We relate to the real. We relate to struggle. We relate to flaws. We connect when we see someone who isn't afraid to be human, because it gives us permission to be human too. Think about the people you feel closest to. Chances are, it's not the ones who always looked polished and untouchable. It's the ones who let you in on their bad days. The ones who admitted when they didn't have all the answers. The ones who shared their fears and their doubts and still chose to keep showing up. That kind of honesty creates safety, and safety creates love. Trying to be perfect actually creates distance. It sets up an invisible wall where people admire you, but they can't reach you. They might be impressed, but they don't feel close. They don't feel safe enough to open up because they feel like they'll never measure up to the image you're projecting. But when you're authentic, you take the wall down. You make room for vulnerability, and vulnerability is what makes love possible. Now, authenticity doesn't mean oversharing every detail of your life. It doesn't mean unloading every thought or exposing yourself without boundaries. It means being genuine. It means that what people see is actually who you are. It means your smile is real, your kindness is sincere, your words match your actions. It means you don't pretend to have it all figured out when you don't. And here's the thing: authenticity doesn't scare people away. It actually draws the right people closer. Because the right people don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be real. When they see your cracks, it reminds them it's okay to have their own. When they see your courage in being honest, it inspires them to let their guard down too. That's what creates intimacy. That's what makes someone fall in love for the long haul. The danger of chasing perfection is that you can win attention but lose connection. People might like the image, but they won't truly know you. And if they don't know you, they can't really love you. Love requires being seen. And to be seen, you have to be willing to show up as you are, not as you think people want you to be. At the end of the day, authenticity is more powerful than perfection because it creates the space for real connection. And connection is the heartbeat of love. There's one more piece to this puzzle that too many people overlook, and it's one of the most powerful. It's the energy you carry. You might not realize it, but every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every interaction you share, you're bringing an energy with you. And that energy decides how people feel when they leave your presence. Love grows where people feel lifted, and it dies where people feel drained. Think about it. You've probably had moments where you were excited to see someone, but 5 minutes into the conversation, you felt exhausted. Their negativity, their constant complaining, their criticism, it weighed you down. You left that interaction thinking, man, I feel worse now than I did before. That's energy. On the other hand, you've met people who could sit across from you and talk about nothing special, and somehow you left feeling lighter, stronger, more inspired. That's also energy. And it's not about being loud. It's not about being the funniest. It's not about being the center of attention. It's about the atmosphere you create when you show up. The truth is, your energy either gives or it takes. It either builds or it breaks. People might not always be able to put it into words, but they know when they leave you feeling drained, and they know when they leave you feeling alive. And that's what makes the difference between someone who stays and someone who slowly pulls away. Here's the challenge: most people never stop to check their energy. They never ask themselves, what do people feel when they've been around me? Do they feel encouraged, valued, supported? Or do they feel criticized, dismissed, overlooked? If you're serious about building real love, you've got to be intentional about the energy you bring. Because people don't forget it. They carry it with them long after the words are gone. And let me be clear, bringing good energy doesn't mean being fake or pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't mean plastering on a smile when you're hurting inside. It simply means choosing to show up in a way that adds value, not subtracts it. It means speaking life into people instead of tearing them down. It means listening more than you talk, being present more than you perform. Sometimes it's just showing kindness when it would be easier to stay silent. The energy you carry is contagious. If you're anxious, it spreads. If you're angry, it spreads. But if you're hopeful, if you're calm, if you're grounded, that spreads too. And people naturally gravitate to the places where they feel peace. They want to be around the ones who lift their spirit instead of crushing it. And when someone consistently feels stronger, more confident, more joyful around you, that's when love takes root. So ask yourself this simple question: when people walk away from me, do they feel a little better or do they feel a little worse? Because the answer to that question will tell you everything about why people are drawn to you and why they stay. At the end of the day, the energy you bring is either the reason people love being around you or the reason they don't.